Welcome to lesson number 2 of Simplify, building easily repeatable systems and processes for your business. Now, at this point, you should have completed this worksheet. What repeats daily, weekly, and monthly? And I suspect at this point, you're looking at this and you're like, man, a lot repeats in my business. It totally does. I mean, that is just the nature of running a business, that the vast majority of the things we do really are recurring. And frankly, when we learn the nature of our business, more of these things will recur and we'll have less one-offs and we'll be able to isolate the one-offs, but we can focus on the things that we know drive our business. And that is a win. So just doing this is really an illuminating process. And I hope you've already seen just how much truly repeats. Now, the next step is determining which of these things you're going to build a process around for the sake of this course and for the sake of getting your feet wet with this idea of how the heck to build a system or a process. So let me give you a couple of pointers to help guide this decision. One, is there one thing on there that just like stresses you out that you're like, ugh, I feel like every time I come back to this, it's like cutting my teeth, can't figure it out, it makes my brain hurt? That is a great one to choose. It may be one where you're like, I really want to get some of this work off of my plate and I need to identify the steps that are happening here so that I can delegate them to someone else. That's a really good one to start with. And the other one was, what did I write down on this? The things that stress you out to the max. So it's like, if there is something on there, and I literally wrote that, stresses you out to the max. I've found that when I work with clients, if we can get that thing that stresses them to the max off of their plate and like really give it and it's not even entirely off of their plate. It's like if we can just give it the guardrails, it's often not as daunting as they thought it was. It's just that they were seeing it as this big instead of seeing all the little steps that lived in it and really breaking it down. So with that in mind, what I'd like you to do is select one to get started with. And that is really the intention, is that we're going to take that one thing all the way through the process. When you've done it and you're executing it, then you can come back and pick another one and create another system and process for this other thing because you've already got the baseline work done. Okay, pick your item. Do you have it? Okay. So with that one thing in mind, maybe you circle it on your sheet. Now we're going into part number 2, which is how the heck do we take it from like, yeah, we know it's this thing, into getting it to the point where we can have a full-blown system and a process. The very first step is simply just doing it. So let's just say you identified social media, because we used this example earlier. So if you had identified that social media is one of those things that you don't totally have your arms around, you want to develop a system and process for it to make it more easy and repeatable in your business and less out of control, the very first thing you're going to do is print out this worksheet that says write it out. And that is exactly what we're going to do. So you're going to leave this by your desk, and every single time you start to work on your social media, you're going to write down what you're doing. You follow me? So let's just say that you are currently creating a post every single day. Now, I would love to change that with you, but let's just say for now that you are. So you might just write like step number 1, action taken. You would say wrote a post. And then time, well, you did it today. So we would say like, how long did it take you? Maybe 15 minutes to write that one post and to schedule it. And then under the who column, you would say you did it. Now, what you may see is that when you get to day 2, it says the same thing. And then the same thing the following day. And what you're realizing very quickly is like, wow, it isn't exactly that. Like I have to write the copy and I have to go find the image and then I need to write all these hashtags and then I need to schedule it. So now what we need to think about are what are the parts that lie inside of it. So you might be like, well, yeah, I guess I wrote it, but actually that's not exactly what happens. Scratch that. Okay, what I did first was I looked for photos. Okay, look for photos. Sorry, I'm shaking the table. Let's pull this over here. And then number 2, you would say, well, then I wrote the caption. And then after that, you wrote the hashtags. And then let's say that the next step you did was you scheduled the post. in Facebook, and then you went and scheduled that same post into Instagram. Oh, but you would probably use a tool. So let's say you use Hootsuite. So you would say schedule the post in Hootsuite for IG. Okay. And then let's say you're like, oh, well, yeah, the next thing I need to do is actually go engage in the platform. So then you said, oh, went and engaged in the platform. So engaged with fans on Facebook, and then you repeat the same type of thing, engage with fans on Instagram. All right. So with each one of these things, what we then need to identify is how long did it take us? That's what's happening in the time column. So for the sake of argument here, posting daily is not really ideal, and it's not a way to build a good system or process. So we're just going to blow that out of the water, and we're going to say we want to get you on a situation where you're batching this stuff and getting more done together, like tasks together in one. So let's say looking for photos, we want to get this on a weekly basis. So we might say, okay, if I need to find a week's worth of photos, it might take me 30 minutes. So you would put under time like 30 minutes per week. And let's say for right now, that's you executing that. Cool. And then writing the caption. So you might think, okay, well, if I need to write one caption, it takes me about 5 minutes per post, and I need to do 7 because we're going to do one post every single day. It's going to take me about 35 minutes to write the captions for 1 week's worth of posts. You follow? 35 minutes per week. And let's say you do that. And then the hashtags, you're like, I got this down to a pretty good science. It only takes me a couple minutes to pop them in. I know what ones we use. So maybe that's just like 10 minutes. Cool. Scheduling. How long does it take you to schedule on Facebook and Instagram? You follow me? That's the process we're going to go through. So you're going to map it literally as you do it from start to finish. That is the first step in this. Now, let's call out something that I identified even just using this example. There are going to be things that you do currently that you don't want to do. So part of what we're trying to identify here is not only what we do, but where we want to go. So the case I gave with social media was, let's say you're currently posting daily, but you're like, this has got to stop. This is mad. I want to post like a week's worth of stuff at a time so that I can get a little space from this in my business. Cool. So as you're building this out, you're thinking about what you currently do, but you're also really harnessing where you want to go. So we're going to identify that directionally where we want to go as we build this thing out. Now, you might get down this thing and be like, oh yeah, I've forgotten some stuff. Cool, keep adding it because that's going to lead us into the next lesson. So don't worry right now about getting it too right, too accurate. I just want you to use your brain to think about when you're doing that particular thing in your business, what are the steps that you're taking from A to Z? Now, every single activity that you identify is going to look different. It not only will look different for you, but it's also going to look different in terms of number of steps. So one process inside of your own business might have 5 steps, whereas another one could have 35. So don't worry about that. But the one thing I want to underscore is each task that you write down on sort of action taken needs to be broken down to its smallest piece. So the example we'll use again, because we're all playing in this same sandbox here, is if I just wrote a post for social media, we know that lives inside of that is found the photos, wrote the caption, attached the hashtags, scheduled it, right? So I want you to find that smallest common denominator because that's really going to help you break this down into something that's going to feel easy as opposed to something that's so giant that we don't really have it broken down. You feel me? Okay. So this process of simply like writing down what you do could take place during the course of a day. Like if this is something that repeats in your business daily, it might take place over the course of a week. So just give yourself the length of time you need. Like there's no hurry here. So if it's something that's going to take a couple days, give yourself a couple days and just leave this thing sitting with you and write down what happened next. And you're just going to keep building on that. Okay. So map all that out. Then I will see you in lesson number 3, where we're going to give a little bit of scrutiny to what we've just written. All right. I'll see you there.